a while, because it's a long time, really, well over 25 years now since you met Lee and been recording with him, and 3 core albums, really, and for me, and I think for most people looking back at Perry's work of that period, it's his best stuff. So what's been his secret of actually working with Lee in the studio and making him to look fair, getting out of him what you have got out of him, rather than a lot of the nonsense that people have let him do otherwise?
I think I spent a long time on that first album. I spent a year on that one as well, and then by that time I realised that he's got so many ideas. What you have to do is just cherry pick the ideas, make him enlarge on the ideas, and work to get something that's really cohesive and really good. And he's brilliant to work with, because he's never a dull moment. If you go in the studio with him, and there's other people in the studio, and they're like falling to sleep, or they've got no energy, I've seen him set fire to somebody's foot in the studio that was asleep. He doesn't want anybody in there. If it's a low energy, it's up. Get the place. Believe that you're making magic when you're going to work. That's Lee Perry. So.
But working with you, you're able to instill some discipline in terms of returning or...
Just all you do is, if you've got the luxury of enough studio time, you're paying for it yourself like I was, you just say, look, we're going to come back, keep working until you've got it really good, enlarge the ideas, get a working understanding, and he's fantastic. He's just he's like a baby playing with things. He's naughty, and he's always making mischievous plans, and that's he's your hero. So it's greatest memory ever. I love that.
Sure, I always remember the time that.
Heathrow Airport.
There's a Heathrow. Well, there's a couple of stories on Lee. There's the other time. There's the one where you rang me and said, "Oh, Steve, Lee's in the studio," because we wanted him to do a DJ program, but he couldn't come up to Lancashire. So I said, "All right, I'll ring you back." So I rang you back with a load of titles. You shouted the title, and Lee introed it, and then you put it on a DAT and sent it back, and basically that was it.
We released it again.
We cut it together. Yeah, we released it again. It was all cut up for other tunes. And then there was a time we met him at Heathrow Airport. You might want to tell that one.
I can't, because he could get in. It's illegal.
Oh, shall we whisper it? We'll do it when we finish the Heathrow Airport story. But it all revolved around him getting off the hook because it was his birthday.
Yeah.
And him enjoying it.
That was nice and amazing.
So how is he these days?
I was with Lee 2 Saturdays ago. We did a gig. We do a gig now where he puts a board up. He does a painting. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but he's great. So he sings, and I was like dubbing it up. And they had that 200,000 people on that Occupy Wall Street thing. They were going to occupy the middle of Rome, but some riots went off, and we were playing right in the middle of that. So I did a gig with a Greeting Citizens of Rome gig, where he was like cursing the Pope for the whole evening. But while he was painting, so the people seemed to like it.
So he's still on form.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's 76 in March.
Yeah.
And this was like 4 o'clock in the morning. He was out for partying, he's great.
So that was Lee from around about 1986 or so the 85, 86 the first times. The other album, which I think was like a really critical piece of work, which is you shared, it never came out on you, came out on World Enterprises or World Records, was Major Malfunction, Keith LeBlanc.
That really is still an album, but
which is incredible. Which is still an incredible listening album, isn't it? It's one of the drum albums you can actually listen to all the way through. Do you want to tell us about the genesis of that?
That album we started on a Thursday night. And we finished on about 2 o'clock on a Monday morning, from beginning to end. So we just all of us in the studio. Mark ended up singing Object Subject to one of the rhythms, but we were just cutting rhythms all weekend. One person's recording the drums, overdubbing the bass, mixing them, voicing them, upstairs editing them, and then we just finished it. And it coincided with that weekend was the space shuttle disaster.
Yeah,
and that was it.
That was a Major Malfunction.
A lot of good records are made in 3 days. That album.
No, it struck me that that was a kind of a classical style on you, where the thing was actually generated and made in a very short period of time. Whereas these days, I mean, how long do you take to make an album? Now, as long as you want, really. I'm not.
Well, I think you can over polish. I think you can over polish something if you can make it just capture something. Some of the records took a year to make, others made really fast. So.
Well, that seems to be the thing about Little X, doesn't it? Because there's quite a few reviews of the new Little X album, which is on the table over there for sale, isn't
It's
it?
very good.
Yeah.
If
If you want loyalty,
you want loyalty, buy a dog.
Buy a
it's
dog.
called.
And basically a lot of the reviews are saying, well, this is how we prefer Little X, which is like pared back and a little bit more minimal and raw and edgy, which goes back right to the first album, doesn't it?
Well, this album, I kind of produced more than the Real World ones. Although the Real World ones, we did co-produce them, they were kind of under a guideline. So this is more like an on-you album. Because the only other on-you Little X album, there was The Wolf That House Built, and there's another one that's great, if anyone can get it, still called Hard Grind,
Fat
which
Possum
is
came out.
not, which is
Fat
not
Possum.
very well known. Yeah, Fat Possum in America, and this one as well.
And I suppose that's another area that needs acknowledgement, really, because people say, what is blues, dub, etc. But the early Little X albums had a tremendous influence, actually, in America, didn't it? Because lots of people kind of followed on, utilising the kind of same techniques, really, notably Moby, so millions of records, but also even down to people like R.L. Burnside and Junior Kimbrough and T-Model 4 were doing blues remixes.
Well, they're a really good bunch, that Fat Possum lot. I like them a lot.
So you visited Mississippi to
I
do a deal?
I was going to go to Mississippi, but I didn't get to go there with Matthew and them. I'd love to go.
Yeah. Well, they're doing pop music now, Adrian. So.
Times they are changing.
The other artist I think is quite interesting for On You Sound, for me, is a guy you work with right at the start, and you're still working with, is Jeb Lloyd Nichols, where he cut a tune for him on one of the early compilations, and just done an album that's been released in Japan. Can you tell us a little bit about the new Jeb Lloyd album?
Yeah, I'll play a track off that in a minute, because that's coming. There's a song called To Be Rich, which has become a little bit of an anthem at the moment. We actually opened up in Rome with that last week. It's a great track. Well, Jeb's a singer-songwriter, and he actually cut his first two tunes on a visit when he came over from New York with Nana Cherry in 1981. That ended up on Cherry Red label, his label, and. No, Jeb's a really good singer-songwriter. So that's
And I mean, if there was an album of Adrian Sherwood remixes, his tune "As the Rain" must be one of the top remixes, certainly for a lot of your.
Honestly, I've forgotten about that tune.
It's a lovely tune. What about all those people you've done productions for? Which ones have you really looked back on and that's his big list, isn't it, these days? Which ones do you look back on and think, wow, I did some good work there?
Well, for me, what tended to happen was I tended to get brought in more to do the weird B-side or the weird remix for the record company to add extra sales. That's what used to happen. They used to have like a tactic to try and get their records in the charts. So looking back on productions I've done for other people, it's difficult, like whole albums. You mean, of work?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few.
Well, then I did Ministry and a few other bits that were all good, but I could have done more, but I was really concentrating trying to get the label to multiply its sales by 10 and never quite made it.
One that really stands out to me is the album, your dub album you did with Primal Scream.
Oh no, I'm very proud of the Echo Deck. If anyone, that's a great album, I like that album. So.
And because there was an Augustus Pablo.
Well, that was really sad because, and at the same time we were going to do a Bob Marley dub album where, but then Bill Laswell did an album and then the Marley estate pulled the plug on that.
Oh, right.
But we had Pablo ready to blow on the tracks and everything, and then, anyway, it's not possible now.
So then it evaporated. I remember that 15 years ago there was, the 15 years anniversary in what's loosely called Business for On You Sound, I think. It doesn't seem like you've often treated this as a kind of label as such, or a business. I mean, how would you describe it yourself?
Well, that album, we did 15 years of what can loosely be described as business, I think was a logo or something at the time. But I think we just tried basically to be a print that could, you know, try and give some of the people who were with a stepping stone and not really taking the label probably as seriously as we should have done. But in hindsight, you know, but looking back on it, I think the legacy is pretty good, and I'm just glad I'm sat here 30 years on and you know, still able to do, you know, put tunes out.
So we've talked about the Jeb album, which is out in Japan, I think on a different label, but they may be released.
It's on You in Japan.
On You in Japan, and may be released in
that'll be released. That'll be one of the bunch next year. The next releases is going to be there's a New Age Steppers record that Harry made before she died, which we finished this week, which is wonderful. I was finished with my engineer Dave McEwen up to yesterday, to be honest. Then I've got a new solo album which I've nearly finished, which will be released next March.
Is that for On You Sound?
That's coming on You. It's all coming on You as well.
So there's no real world.
No, I don't really do that anymore.
No,
I don't really do that anymore. No. And then there's new albums by Crispy Horns with Roots Radix and Dub Syndicate, which is a lovely album. There's a Ghetto Priest record called Sacred Ground, which is finished as well. And there's several other projects that are really good that I've nearly finished. So.
Well, thanks very
much. It's the 31st.
It's
beyond.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming as well. So we're going to play some tunes now and everything.
Thanks very much, Adrian.
Thank you very much. Dennis, this man is one of the most important people in world music, believe it or not. Bless you, Dennis. Thanks. Thanks, Lee Barker. Cheers. He's going to play a tune he did with Style Scott, and I'm going to DJ as well in a minute. So if you want a beer or something, or say hello, or buy any lovely new tunes. Hi, everybody. You know what?